Everyone loves our favorite D&D races, but sometimes change is good. Today, with special guest Alex Baum, we are going to completely reflavor the lore behind some of Dungeons and Dragons' most iconic races, and I'm super excited. Thank you for joining us today, Alex.
Yay!
Happy to have you back.
Hello and welcome, heroes, to the Crit Academy. I am your host, Justin.
And I am your guest, Alex Baum.
And I'm your host, Ian.
We hope to inspire you with creative content that you bring with you on your next adventure.
That's right.
I am super excited. If you guys don't know, Alex Baum has joined us more than once. She is my amazing dungeon master for Initiative and Intrigue. Alex, for those who don't know, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what you do in the Dungeons and Dragons world?
Sure. My name is Alex Baum, and I misspelled, of course, A-E-L-X, because I am incredibly dyslexic. And I do Dungeons and Dragons content on TikTok and on Twitch. Most of the time it is dungeon master geared. Sometimes it is player geared, but it's mostly just like advice and kindness and like ideas, and sometimes we'll throw things back and forth. Like we had a year-long debate on our on streams. We do like what I call interactive podcasts, which is essentially like I'm just there talking. It's just a fancy way to say that I'm talking to chat. So we had a year-long debate about whether or not a gelatinous cube was considered vegan. Whether or not if you eat a gelatinous cube, are you still vegan? Never mind that it would destroy your stomach because it's literally acid. Just is it vegan? And we decided that and it took us a year to decide that gelatinous cubes were just like jellyfish. And so then we looked up jellyfish, and jellyfish are in the Animalia family, and so gelatinous cubes are not vegan. So we just found out a couple weeks ago. So that's kind of like that's what we do.
I'm going to say gelatinous cube's not a plant, so I don't see what the debate is.
Right. All right, well, that's probably why it took them a year to figure it out. All right, so today we are discussing D&D race lores. We have each picked one of our favorite races to completely redo the lore for either to change for your Forgotten Realms game or your own homebrew to enhance the game, or just to spark some ideas for your own stories and campaigns to break the hold that this is the way this race is meant to be. I know that anybody that's watched the show before knows that we once we played a game of Dawn of Worlds and ended up with some like frost dwarves or something like that. Frost tieflings. I don't remember.
You start with frost tieflings and the dwarves appeared, and then there's frost dwarves.
Yes, because of mating, I guess.
And conquering.
So Alex, you have brought the Dragonborn. Can you tell us why you chose the Dragonborn, and tell us a little bit about what makes your Dragonborn different than Forgotten Realms?
Well, if I remember, I think the whole inspiration for this episode and me coming on for this one, because I think this is my third time, was because I explained to you my own personal lore for Dragonborn, and you really liked it. So I created the Wayward Arrow setting, which is my own personal setting. And in the Wayward Arrow setting, I was told early on that you need something very unique in your setting. Like you should do something like to offset you from everybody else. And kind of what I decided to do was I looked at all the races and I saw that Dragonborn actually didn't live that long. They didn't live long comparatively to everyone else. So I was like, why wouldn't they? And so I came up with this story about the Dragonborn. So originally, first were the Genasi, and then the Genasi went extinct. And then whenever the gods tried a second time to create sentient beings, they created people of land, people of sea, and people of sky. The people of land were my homebrew race, the Buijara. People of sea were the Tritons, and the people of the sky were the dragons. And these guys lived for a very long time. As you know, dragons lived extremely long.
Right.
The metallic dragons, the gemstone dragons, spread out and secluded themselves among the land. The metallic dragons kept to themselves and kept away from a lot of the mortals. And the chromatic dragons began to conquer. And what started was enslaving humans and enslaving elves and enslaving dwarves. And it kind of grew in their mind as their ego grew. The chromatic dragon's ego grew so grand that they eventually thought that they could become gods if they go and kill the gods. So the Gemstone Dragons were just like off on their own. They were doing their own thing. Again, they're neutral. The metallic dragons were not helping anyone. They were kind of staying off by their wayside because they didn't want to die. And the chromatic dragons began to try to ascend the holy mountain to kill the gods. And the gods sent many warnings, floods, thunderstorms, massive tornadoes, and still they tried to kill the gods. And the gods said, look, we're gods and you can't kill us. Therefore, you will be punished. And they decided to punish all of the dragons, all of dragonkind, by turning them into the thing that they detested the most, mortals. And that is how you got the Dragonborn.
Damn, that is so good. I love it. Holy shit. So, I love the idea that the Dragonborn are basically cursed other races that are, or if I'm understanding, they're just cursed and say you're stuck now. You're losing your power. Congratulations, you can now grow old. And can you imagine how horrible that would be?
Yep.
They brought it on themselves.
I'm not saying
that.
Well, some of them brought it on themselves.
So in the initiative and intrigue game that you run with us, these the Dragonborn you use?
Yes. So these are the Dragonborn that I'm using. The interesting thing about the Dragonborn is that they kind of roam the land being hated, and nobody really wanted to be around them because they were like, hey guys, we're one of you now. Like, oh God. Some still tried to claim power, which was easily pushed out. But the thing that was interesting is that they ended up trying to be forgiven by the gods. Well, a portion of the Dragonborn ended up trying to be forgiven by the gods. And they actually, 2,000 years later, ended up holding a week-long ceremony, like a week-long praise of the gods, trying to explain to the gods, like, hey, we're sorry, like our ancestors did that, because it was 1,000 years later. And they die after 60 years. Actually, I believe somebody can maybe correct me, but I believe Dragonborn are the shortest living creature in the
handbooks.
I believe they're the shortest living ones.
Garwin says, imagine having your entire race cursed into becoming fruit flies. That's basically the equivalent on a human scale for dragons.
Yeah, essentially. And also, thank you so much to everyone for all the love on my lore. I worked really fucking hard on that, so it makes me really happy. But I don't really tell people about my lore. I don't know why. I just get nervous.
I've told you before, you've got such an amazingly creative mind, and while it can be scary sharing, it can only grow and reinforce it, especially when you get such good positive feedback. Because people, despite what boomers think, people do like change, and sometimes we're done with some of the traditional stuff. That's why many of us do our own homebrew, right? Because we've done all the other stuff so much. So having amazing lore come like this is something that I totally want to make this in my games now, because I think this is awesome.
And I do think the thing about homebrew is yes, the official main setting for 5th edition in particular is Forgotten Realms, but not everybody necessarily knows about the Forgotten Realms and the material we get from the main books, if you will, like the handbooks, DMG, Master Manual, tend to give you more broad strokes than anything else. It doesn't go in depth with some of the novels or even some of the older publications used to in comparison.
That's why I was really excited. I assume, since you're talking Gemstone Dragons, that you've already got Fizbin's book.
Yep.
And and I think I said this on the show when we covered it, I want to see more books like that where it gives us all the lore and all the detail and a variety of new monsters in that category. Like, I would love an entire goblin book of just hundreds of different types of goblin, all their different cultures and traits and all these different things. And I feel like when we do homebrew for our stuff, we're kind of doing that, and we're creating these little different, origins that just give us more options to say, I don't like these 99, but damn, that one by Alex is phenomenal. That's going into my story.
I'm also 100% picturing when the dragons were cursed and became Dragonborn. The ones who were like trying to take over were complete dicks. I can see all imaginary teams going, "Oh, so you're one of us now," and killable.
Yeah, so actually, what's so interesting is that the dragons that were ascending the mountain, like they killed them as they were ascending the mountain to go to the gods.
Yep.
And when they actually went to go, whenever they became the Dragonborn, they walked back down the mountain, and they were not killed by the mortals. They were not killed by the slaves. They were killed by the other Dragonborn.
Which makes sense.
Ooh, nice.
The other Dragonborn was so angry with them that they just struck them down where they landed, because like there were so many that were affected by this that had no idea that this plot was even going on.
Right.
We had nothing to do with this, but yet you screwed up for everyone, you dicks.
Exactly.
Which
It's like that
unfortunately
one
happened.
kid in the class. It's like that one kid in the class that's like, "Oh,
Um,
Charlie." Like, yeah.
Good.
Oh, did it freeze?
What?
You guys froze for a second for me.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. If you're watching right through us, for us, it focuses all the output on the bandwidth. So this one will freeze, but not the outbound.
Oh, okay.
All right. So going on, we're gonna move to the next race because we're already halfway into our main topic's timeline. I chose the gnome. Now, everyone that knows, most people are gonna pick a halfling as far as like character building over a gnome just because of the innate mechanics. That has been my experience. That is not the end all be all, but I really like the gnomes. I think that the stories behind them are cool, but I've always envisioned them differently. I always envisioned the halflings as these cuddly, fun, two dinners or two breakfasts or whatever, from Tolkien lore and stuff.
And then there's Dark Sun.
Then there's Dark Sun, right? And I feel like my gnomes that I've always envisioned kind of follow that sort of theme. So for me, gnomes are small, sly, and brutish creatures. They view their other sentient races and creatures alike as objects of amusement and pleasure. Nicknamed Furian for their savage and brutal nature. They're the kindest among the gnomes are killers and monsters, while their worst are torturers and terrifyingly bloodthirsty killers. Many gnomes enjoy toying with and tormenting their victims before slaying them. Those let me fix this here. Can't read my own writing. So when it comes to the gnome, those who have encountered a Furian say that they get some sort of intoxication from the fear their victims release, and because of this they will stalk their prey, taunting and promising they just want to play and won't hurt them. That they just want to talk for a moment, even while sticking a blade into their prey with a smile and gleeful laughter. You can hear their pleasure in their giggles, their laughs, and their cackles as they stalk you in the darkness. When Furian gather and hunt in groups, the echoes of their maniacal laughs can send shivers and chills down the spine of even the most courageous of heroes. Like a pack of stalking hyenas. If you hear their cackles, it's best to get away. Though some believe that once a Furian has chosen you as its target, it will stalk you until either it dies or you do. Many stories have come from encounters with gnomes, aka the Furians. Even a child's poem formed to give warning to all. Beware the echoes of savage joy, otherwise you'll end up a tormented toy. That is how I envision gnomes for me. Can I move my mic a little closer? Yeah. Sorry, I got you. There we go. So yeah, that is something that I've always liked, and honestly, I inspired this totally by the Chucky doll. I don't know if you ever watched that growing up in Child's Play. Very much what I was going for. What do you think, Alex?
Okay. My immediate thought is this is gonna sound so weird. My immediate thought is that group of players that like always go for the money. You know, like those chaotic neutral players who like will pickpocket the person that they're trying to help, and like they'll like just throw one of these at them. Just like that would
Yes.
be so fun. And like the other thing that I thought of is, did either one of you watch the show Firefly?
Of course.
You know
I did,
Reavers?
but it was a long
Yep.
time ago.
The
Uh,
Reavers.
Are
that
they like little
really,
gnome killers?
Oh no.
really reminds me of Reavers. And so my instant thought is to build an entire plot line around discovering why the Furies become the Furies, and like what does that mean? Like where does that go? Like, was there something that happened a long time ago? Do they drink the Kool-Aid as a kid? Like what's going on? Like, you know what I'm saying?
So
And Firefly. Do you know how Reavers clean their spears? They put them through the wash.
ugh,
Oh my god, that's horrible. That's a horrible joke.
that's bad, dude.
Yep.
That's really bad. So when I was thinking of this, another thing that came to mind is Hunger Games. Like in my mind, when they're growing up, that's the step into adulthood. Is you're tossed into an arena with a bunch of the people you grew up with, and they just massacre each other till the strongest survives, and that's why they're so brutal, and that just becomes the normal. And I can't 100% take credit for that. Obviously, Hunger Games has done it. What is the Black Clover anime did it? There's a group where they do this, do the same thing. So I know it's not a super original idea, but I really enjoyed the wash joke, man. That's killing me. I really enjoy the sort of murder sense, and I think it goes beyond just the typical like barbarian class, right? Because you always see the barbarian class as this murderer type style, but seeing it as like a wizard or even a cleric who delved into the arts of divine to follow a deity of torture or something like that, you know what I mean? So it's more than just like what you typically think of, just, you know, barbarian beat 'em up type races. So at least in my mind. What do you think, Ian? No more wash jokes, please.
Yeah. No promises. Anyway. Like I was saying before, when I read through this, the very first thing I thought actually was like they seemed to me similar to the Halflings of the Dark Sun thing, but I don't mean that in a bad way too.
Right.
And this is something that we see personality-wise that definitely differentiate what you expect from gnomes in general. So, and I could definitely see how. I'm actually now picturing these gnomes as like Edward Elric, who keeps being told they're short.
That's a good one.
And they just never stop being angry.
I like that. So, so obviously mine's not nearly as in depth as the awesome one that Alex has there. I feel like I could have did a little bit better job now, but the goal here is
I've been doing mine since like 2000. I came up with that lore in like 2016, and I've been like refining it ever since. So like,
and that's the secret too, right? Is being don't listen to Justin. I love Ian's bad joke, whatever. But that's the thing, right? When you are building your own origins and then building off of it and improving it and refining it over time, that's how you get something that is just engaging and memorable, and something that you will want to use over and over, and you know other people will want to include in their games as well. All right, Ian, what did you choose?
I actually went back and forth on this for a while.
Okay.
And I almost did a cop-out and recycled my dwarves from our Dawn of Worlds episode. But I ended up going with a race I don't feel like I see very often, and I definitely think their racial ability needs to be refined a little bit more. Goliaths. Because, like, let's be all real here. As cool as they are, how many times, anyway, have you seen them? I don't think very much. So let's see what we can do here.
So what did you do? Let's hear it.
Well, they're still large humanoids. Because, like, I mean, that's kind of their entire thing. Why change that?
That's their thing. Yep, I get it.
Whose circumstances, however, of their birth are rather mysterious. As far as that can be observed, a spirit-like being will become attached to a stone, if you will, causing it to glow. And eventually it starts growing a flesh-like substance around the stone core, if you will, and eventually produces a Goliath with their skin taking on an appearance and properties similar to what the stone core was.
Huh.
So like those who like inhabit obsidian, for example, might, well, they kind of have like the obsidian finish, if you will, to their skin, and so on and so forth.
I like that. That fixes the stone's endurance feature too.
That's kind of what I kind of built it up that, yeah.
But I love it. That's right, that's on the nose.
Right. And they also wander the world on their own, learning as a journey, and they tend to come across as distant to most, but at the same time, they have a childlike curiosity with a strong desire to learn as much as possible and grow their skills.
I like that.
And they, as a result, they don't tend to often grow attachments, if you will, to other beings. But those that they do are, well, they have a dedicated friend for life.
Hmm.
And they also tend to fall more towards logic in regards to their decision making, and they tend to be non-confrontational. But
Goliath with logic.
if spurred into action, they tend to be quick and decisive in their methodology. Take that interpretation as you will.
So you turn them on their head, quite literally.
Well, I still pulled like some of their lore, but decided to like put a new twist on it.
Yeah.
And each individual tends to try to find a place in their walk in life, and they of course tend to go different routes depending on what their experience is. But when they choose a person to focus, they tend to be well respected in that area because they're very much like, I'm going to be good at this thing.
So they basically pick a goal in life or a thing that they want to do, and they dedicate their life to it.
Yep.
That to me is really, really cool because that takes a different approach. Because the current lore for the Goliath is very much a mountain.
Yep.
I got a word, but I can't think of it right now. Mountain hermits.
Well,
mountain hermits. Hermits.
I want to go as far as say it's hermit because when you read the lore, they're very much a tribal-based society, but they also tend to become very dedicated to, I'm going to be good at the thing because my tribe's survival depends on it.
That's very good. I also like the childlike enthusiasm. That coming out of a monstrously giant character just is, I think, adorable. Like an innocence about them that you wouldn't expect. What do you think, Alex?
So I think one of the reasons that like Kenku and Kalashtar are such loved and highly played, or like goblins or kobolds, is because they're high fantasy.
Right.
Like, you're not an elf, you're not a human. It's high fantasy, and this to me is like high fantasy. This to me is like, oh yeah, I want to play that. I want to be different. I want to be unique. I want to be a rock with a bunch of flesh around it. Like,
I love that. That is such a nice touch.
Like, that's why I really love this, is because like I think that the reason why other people choose those high fantasy player character races is because they want to get away from the everyday. They want to get away from the mundane. I mean, I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
Dragons. So like, to me, this is great because this is super high fantasy.
Yeah. And I think it fits the theme really well because he tied it into one of their 5e mechanics, which is Stone's Endurance. And that to me is really, really cool.
And I have a suspicion that Stone's Endurance is going to get a huge revamp during the 50th anniversary.
Let's hope not. I like the way it works.
I actually feel it's underpowered the way it works.
Oh, really?
I mean, it's fine as
I can see that.
At low levels.
It needs to scale.
Exactly. It doesn't scale.
You know what? I agree with that. It scales very poorly.
Because I can see it. I can see them going two ways about it. Like either like increasing the die as you level up, or I think they'll probably end up going the proficiency score route that we were seeing a lot lately.
Yep. I think that's probably the best way to do it right now. I had a long discussion. This is a short tirade, but I had a discussion in our Discord community, which you can come join for free. Just head on over to our website and do all that jazz. Also, join Alex's Discord because it's amazing. So the thing that I like about the new way they're going with the proficiency modifier is it's great for classes that don't have one primary stat. Because when you scale and get ability access based on proficiency, eventually you max out at 6. But unless most of the abilities right now, if you don't get to level 20 or stats in 20, you don't get the full 5 uses of whatever that feature is. But that's harder to get when you have classes that have to focus on strength, and charisma and constitution, you know? So I think that that's just a better way to do it, though it does make them a little weaker in the early levels. All right, that was my rant. I'm done. So, obviously, when it comes to creating your, taking the existing races and altering them to make your own flavor, part of the fun of it is changing it from what we typically know and adding it, unexpected changes. Like, I never would have thought to make Dragonborn, cursed dragons that not only lost their immortality, they lost their ability to fly, they lost their damn tails, and by the way, they suck now compared to what they could do. And that to me is just mind-boggling alteration. But it's honestly, I like it better than the current lore. And the same thing goes with the curiosity of the Goliaths. That's not something I would ever thought to give. You know, having a big giant person whose skin is almost different varieties of stone, which by the way, if you haven't played the old game Wildstar, they had Granox in there that were just like that. Like you could be like different, your stone monsters, right? And changing the lore to fit the need of your world is just one of the best parts about being a content creator and a dungeon master in creating your own world. Alex, did you have any other final thoughts on going above and beyond and creating alternative race lore for Dungeons and Dragons?
So I
Or
just
any-
saw someone say, if you don't mind if I go off a comment,
How
that,
about it?
that we need to rewrite half elf origin info
Mhm.
so that it isn't only human. And I absolutely agree with that. Something that I'm hoping that they bring in 5.5 is a way to mix and match races that are able to be mixed and matched, and so that half elf can be half elf and half orc. Because I have a character that I like named Yazgash. She's one of my she was actually the first PC I ever played, and she is half elf and half orc. And so I definitely think that that's something that would be very, very interesting to do.
Well, I know, and I mentioned this in chat earlier, but in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, they actually made being half elf or half orc a racial feat. They can drop on anybody.
That's interesting. I like
That's
that.
fun.
And of course, in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, they made everything a feat. So
That's also true. So we've actually talked about that before, where even in the current rules, while there wouldn't be no mechanical benefit, you can easily describe that inherited features on your character.
Yeah.
I once played a half orc that looked just like a human with one small difference. They had giant tusks for a human, right? They're pretty big, but that was the only giveaway that they had orc in them. And that mechanically didn't change me from the half orc stat block, but it gave me the flavor I was looking for. So I agree with Alex. Having a way to include that mechanically would be really nice. Dulcinea says in the Critical Role lore, half orcs of Roshana are actually half drow, which I had never seen before. That is cool. I did not know that.
I'm now thinking about a meme I saw float around for a little bit of like and there was like an artwork we saw like a childlike orc-ish figure, but the like was like, DM, no, you're half orc cannot be half dwarf. But then it ended angry. But then you saw this childlike orc character starting like have like a angry but cute, like looking like a angry, like shouting. It was captioned angry orc noises.
Is a half orc and half elf a fork?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going with that moving forward.
Yep.
Okay, so go ahead. You were going to say something?
Oh, no, I'm good.
Okay. All right. So I think that'll do it for our main topic. Obviously, this is something that we could expand upon by rewriting all the lore. And if you've written any unique lore and you want to share it, tag us on a Facebook, send it via email, Twitter, whatever social media. Come drop us in a Discord and share. I love hearing what people have created. That's one of the best parts about being in the tabletop industry in some way, is sharing the worlds that we've created. So 4 orcs, that too is a fork. You guys, you're slaying me. All right, so before we move on, that'll do it for our main topic. Before we move on to our unearthed tips and tricks, I have to open this up. We have a message from our sponsor, Manscaped. Support for Crit Academy is brought to you by Manscaped. Who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming champions of the world? Manscaped offers precision engineering that even an artificer would approve. Tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0.
Yep, you heard that right. The 4.0, which means it's been at least 4 other versions.
I wonder if they were as good.
Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. Go to manscaped.com and use the code CRIT, C-R-I-T, for 25% off and free shipping.
Don't roll in that one. Manscaped engineering the ultimate groin and body trimmer by focusing on intelligent functionality and an incredibly comfort grooming experience. Their 4th-generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe. I bet you your Goliaths have no problem with that.
Nope.
Technology. I know. I now feel confident shaving my boys.
This upgrade trimmer includes a multi-function on-off switch that can be engaged a travel lock, if you will. It also gives you the ability to turn on the 400K LED spotlight on and off when you need a more precise shave.
Men, if you've been shaving with same nut trimmer on your face, you've been doing it wrong. No person wants to end up with pubes in their mouth.
And not to mention, who really wants to put a razor blade by their family jewels? Just saying. It's time to get your own ball, hair, and body trimmer with Manscaped to make me time the best time. And enhance your confidence with some nice smooth boys. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code CRIT at manscaped.com. Once again, 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. And once again, using the code CRIT.